just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. All right, super pumped for today's guest. Before we introduce him, Coach Nick Davies, Coach Josh Greco, welcome to another episode of Truth Seekers. Introducing Coach Matt Drinkhahn. Welcome.
Boom! It is my sincere honor and pleasure to be here, and I cannot wait to just have the most fun today and crush this time together. Let's do it.
I love it. Coach Matt, I'm wondering if you have maybe a 60-second version of an intro, like what would we need to know about Coach Matt in the background, and what would we need to know today to know you?
Oh man, I've been waiting for this question. First, I seek the truth. I am a true truth seeker. I'm also an eternal optimist, someone who always sees the positive in the situation and can see that things are really going on as well. So there's no rose-shaded glasses over here that are oblivious to the truth and the real that's happening. I take those real things and I package them up in a way that I can learn and grow. And that's what an eternal optimist is to me. Someone who sees the positive and they take in the real and they're able to learn and grow from it real time as it goes. And through that lens, I see the world. And I'm a full-time dad of 3 lovely young ladies, of a bride who is much more amazing and way out of my class. And I work at a company called Pro Advisor Coach with an amazing group of exceptional coaches and leaders who are impacting the world. That's it. That's all.
As well summed up here. We got quite a powerhouse going, and yes, a past co-host of Truth Seekers. Yes, so a guest today. Thank you for being here.
Absolute pleasure, my friend. I'm ready to go deep and dirty and dig it in, and do what we can to find the truth today. So let's go.
Let's go deep right away. Coach Nick and I were just talking about this. Our tagline for our podcast is "The Simple Secrets of the Successful." And we're obsessed with, this is episode 110 or thereabouts. I believe this is 110. So what we've come to discover is that the principles are the same, but we get different perspective of these principles the higher that we go. So I know that, with your coaching career, the success that you've had in your professional and personal life, maybe if you can just share how your understanding of success principles and the clues that success leaves has progressed or changes, or you see it differently the more or the higher that you go?
Great question. I'll start off with a real life example. So I've got the perfect day lined up. And by perfect, I mean that it's calendared out. I've got all these things I'm going to get done one after the other, and it's going to go great. And then I get the message from the school that says, your bus is going to be 45 minutes late. So there's a little bit of challenge to the schedule. Everything that was lined up exactly the way we want it to be, it just changed. And this is the first message of the day that happens. Okay, so that happens. The second thing that happens right after that, literally right after that, is that I get a message from the local internet service provider saying, restorage expected within 2 hours. So here I am lined up, ready to have this great day, and my internet's down, which means I'm not going to be able to do my Zoom calls. The bus is late, which means I'm going to need to take the kids to school, and everything is thrown into a challenge right away. Oh, and there are also 5 semi-important emails that came in overnight. So here's the success principle. Welcome imperfection. Welcome challenges and pivots. I am so glad you are here at my table. What are you here to teach me today? Every time that you show up, it's going to make me stronger. I'm going to be a little bit more resilient. I'm going to learn a little bit more patience, and I'm going to be a little bit more able to adapt to and overcome the little simple life's challenges that happen every day. So thank you for showing up in patience. Moving forward, you will have diminishing power over me because I own how I show up when you're here. Thank you so much. So that is the success principle, is that the hard stuff that's coming at us each and every day. And we've all got stuff, right? We've all got that challenge with the bus. We've all got, that challenge with someone who's late for a meeting. A client does this, a boss does that. We don't feel good. We're kind of achy. Maybe our clothes, they come back from the dry cleaners and maybe there's a stain in them. Something happens. We spill something on our keyboard, whatever it is, the tiniest or the biggest thing. We're afraid of something. We have imposter syndrome. We're feeling stressed because our significant other, our loved one, is mad at us for some reason that we don't know, or a reason that we caused, and we feel guilt. Whatever it is, the challenge that the most successful people that I've seen, they're able to overcome, is they're able to take that and learn from it and stay curious to it. So that is my long-winded answer to a short question. And to make my answer just a little bit longer, I would say that the true teased out principle here is to be curious and let it teach you what it's here to teach you. How's that sound?
I love that. I'm wondering if Coach Nick has any imperfections that come out throughout his day or any needs for pivots. Coach, what do you think of that?
No, never. Never happens to me. I don't know what you're talking about. And I think it's the great part of that, of course, is we get to practice these principles every day because it's what we do. I often tell people, hey, let me tell you a secret about why I got into coaching. It's so I get to do this. I have to do this. Like, it's a cheap way of me having to do this every day. Because when I found out about personal development, some of these principles, I'm like, wow, what if I forget this stuff? So having to live in that place is a cheat. I just do it every day. Why not make a living out of it? Why not help other people doing it? It's like, yes, absolutely. And the more I figure out, the more experience I have, the more I realize that I don't know anything. I'm just figuring it out. It's one step at a time. And it's rolling with a punch and just knowing that you're going to get knocked down often, but it's how quickly you can get back up. And that's the practice. It's the speed at which you get back up. And having just a tiny millisecond quicker on getting back up, it's going to allow you to create shorter cycle times to the success you want and helping people out. So, yeah.
That's a great segue into a question and insight I want to gain into Matt's process here. I feel like, whomever might be watching this or listening to this, it's one thing to say, I'm excited, I'm curious, I'm ready for this to teach me what it's here to teach me. Does it feel different to you when these things happen? Is there, is it like Coach Nick is saying, where we're lessening or shortening the lag time to get to that place of like, oh, I embrace it? Or is it still always uncomfortable no matter what version of spilling coffee on the keyboard comes up for you?
Great question. And I think this is a perfect, real life practical example, is that before I used to be a big yeller. And when I had a child that would do something that would upset me, like hit one of their siblings, then they would hear about it from me. And I would do yelling. And to give you an example, the emotion would show up. This perfection, high standard would show up. I would feel impatient. I'd feel frustrated. And you're not going to tell me that some hocus pocus work on your mental game that you're going to stop feeling this and you're going to be able to stop it. So I kept yelling because that's what I grew up. That's what I learned. And I guess I'm supposed to be that way. Well, here's the truth for me, is that I got in the game and started to practice. I wanted to correct a behavior. I wanted to do and show up in a different way. And it took a hell of a lot of practice. It took over 3 years for me to become yell free. And it took 3 years to go make progress in this very challenging place for me. Right? So anyone that has any type of challenge, whether it's a psychological challenge, a neurochemical challenge, it's an identity challenge, these things there's a lot of fascinating research into neuroplasticity nowadays, that our minds can change over time if we work on them consistently. And the way to consistently work on a mind, one way that I would coach people to do it, that I've been coached to do it, and that I still do every day, is that when I feel the frustration, or I feel the fear coming up inside of me, and when I feel that in my pocket, basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I guess maybe not when I'm in the shower and naked, but almost 24 hours a day, I have this little squeeze ball with me right here. and I feel myself starting to get angry. I feel myself starting to lack certainty. I feel myself starting to get down about something. I start to squeeze this. This is my emotional anchor, and it reminds me to stay present in this moment and appreciate where I'm at. So the first thing I do, no matter what's going on, so take a deep breath. I appreciate and acknowledge where I'm at right now, that I'm starting to feel this way. And then I let it go. I let it go by this simple method that we just described. I let it come in, and I'm curious what it's here to teach me. And I've been practicing that for years, and it works in frustrating times with my spouse in real life. Real talk here. It works in times when I have a frustrating conversation over any number of things, but most of my challenges and opportunities, they're cloaked with the people and the relationships that I love the most. Those are my greatest teachers, because that's where the perfectionism might show up. It's got to be my way, right? Well, that's something that we've been working on. So I squeeze this, deep breath, pause, appreciate and acknowledge it, then let it go through that process. You know what? I forgot the question, Josh. So pardon me. Sometimes I just start ranting and I forget the question. So you've got to bring me back to reality here. Where were we?
Now, perfect opportunity. So talking about shortening that leg time. So you've halfway answered it with like 3-year practice. I'm wondering what the shortening of that has looked like for you over that 3 years. How do you know that you've made progress? Because there is a conversation around like, it's not ever going to feel different like that. Those emotions still come up, but
That's
it's
right.
what happens after that, and it's how you deal with it that influences what happens next.
That's right. And in my opinion, and there's research to back this up as well, the question that pops up in your mind when you feel the emotion might be what guides you to the next place. And if the question, it's not a question at all, it's a statement that I feel bad right now, or I hate that they put me in this situation, or I feel sorry for myself, or I can't believe I'm here again, or some statement that leads me into a negative place, it can spiral down. I can become this person I was in the past when this was a real challenge for me. Now the tripwire is set that a question pops up when I'm challenged. And the question, if it's with parenting, it might be the question of how would ideal Matt, the dad, show up and respond to this? If it's a corrective behavior of my kid's situation, the question that pops up is, what's the worst that could happen if I don't correct this behavior? Let it be. If it's a challenging situation with a client, what is this client here to teach me right now? Let's learn. These are instinctive tripwire questions that happen every time one of those 3 triggers happens. So it's a matter of figuring out what's going to trigger me. Where does my real pain come up? When does it come up? And then putting a play in my playbook that empowers me to move forward and learn from this. That's the real trick. And that's where we're able to make forward progress and keep going.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a testament to what you mentioned earlier, maybe about neuroplasticity. We have these patterns that we fall into. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is you're just adjusting, rewiring how you react or what you do in those situations. I think that's so important to hone in on, because simple secrets of the successful, it's nothing crazy, it's nothing large, it's nothing big, but it's the practice of something so simple that yields massive results over time, right? And you said it's been a practice. It's not after a week, even after a month, even after a year do you get the results that we're talking about. This has been a 3-year process for you. Is that correct?
I think so. And just to build on that, this is just one example, the 3-year process of becoming a yell-free home. There are innumerable examples in my life, and probably the life of every one of our listeners today, of stuff that keeps coming up over and over again, tripwires that we consciously or otherwise trip that cause us to go into some type of emotional state. And the success principle to be derived or to be squeezed out of this juicy fruit that we're creating right now is this: consistency in how you might work on this game, consistency in how you might show up, consistency in how you are intentionally rewiring or intentionally showing up. Consistency is the key. You look at Michael Phelps, for example, and he might be the most decorated Olympian in the history of the Olympics in the whole world. And I'm studying him right now, him and his coach, Bob Bowman, and we're talking about play that videotape. That's what coach would say to Michael Phelps. Watch the videotape. play the videotape. And what he was referring to is that every time Michael Phelps would go to the pool, he had a very consistent routine, and he did it day in, day out, every day for years. And then he was the master Olympian. And this is something we can practice each and every day. If we know what situations we might be in, we can practice them. And this is one that if anyone here has a recurring challenge that happens, identify it. How might you want to show up in that moving forward? And then practice what that might look like. Nick, you have a thought. I think that you might have a thought about this.
I've got plenty of thoughts on this, of course, and I'd like to put a template around this and way of thinking about this in the way that I've seen before of state, story, strategy. Actually comes back from the Tony Robbins days, state, story, strategy. Your state informs how you receive a certain situation. So you can fundamentally practice the version of yourself that you want to be. So I love the way you put it, tripwires, when you go to these tripwires, if you're in a good state, the chances of them tripping you up becomes less because you can already see it and you'll move over it. And so if you do get tripped up, or that you're going to see them, but you're in a good state, the story that you get is going to be a more empowering story or a less empowering story, depending on the state. And then the last S is the strategy. What do you actually do about that? So it's the yelling or not the yelling. So I love the way I think about that, right? So you've got the tripwires themselves to identify those. I think it's really important, but you can also think about it like the fundamentals of practicing for yourself, being the best version of yourself. So just your baseline changes as well, to know that it's always going to be that story that kind of quickly gets in there. And people listening and watching this might think, there's no story. That happens and I do that. But it can be really quick. That tripwire comes in and it's like, bam, you're already straight into the action. That story is already inserted and you can't even see this there. You don't know that you're telling yourself that. But if we can create the space by working on your baseline, like just get that little bit of time to notice what story that is, so you can actually find out what those tripwires are. Because certainly for me, I had a long time trying to figure out what they are. I just couldn't see it. And so by spending time just giving yourself that space, whatever that practice looks like, then we can really understand what those stories are and then allow ourselves to change the strategies. But we can override the strategy, but that comes from willpower and a push, and it's certainly not sustainable and doesn't feel good emotionally.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think about you mentioned how we might work on that state and story and strategy. And I think one thing that's been very effective for me in this, if your listeners are looking for a very practical way of doing it, it's worked for me. I heard from a podcast of Michael Gervais, Finding Mastery. Years ago, he interviewed the founder of Hurley, that athletic wear brand. And Mr. Hurley was talking about one of his success keys. At the end of every day, he would look back over a few of the conversations that were more important to him that day. And he would ask himself how he did in those conversations. And he would then go back and ask, if I could do it again, this is how I might respond. And he would practice that response. And I look at it very similar. I will go back and look at the conversations I have. And I don't do it in the evening time. When I wake up in the morning, my miracle morning, I will think about, here's how I want to show up today. And if this particular scenario happens, then here's how I might respond. So I'm thinking in advance that if this challenging thing happens, here's how I might respond. If this really potentially positive things happen, here's how I might respond. So it's similar that I'm practicing what Charles Duhigg might call in his book, The Power of Habit, the cue, routine, reward. If the cue is this particular statement or sentence or action that someone takes, let's say that I'm a sales professional, I'm on a pitch, and the prospect says this. Well, the cue is that they say this. The routine is how I'm going to show up and respond to that. And then the reward is what happens next. I am practicing the routine. I'm consciously thinking about, here are the cues. How might my routine be when these such cues happen? And that would be the consistent principle of practicing this over and over again. So it makes me feel fairly prepared. Having said that, I did go a little haywire when the bus didn't show up this morning and when my internet went down. But that's just being human. The cue, routine, reward, it works. And this consistency that we bring to it, it can really help everyone elevate their performance and their peacefulness in their life.
I like where we got with this. It's almost like we unraveled it. We started out with a pretty advanced version 3 years in, and then created the process by which you approach, like came in from the other side of what you do to be mindful, like a couple words that, all have similar meaning: consciousness, mindfulness, creating space, identifying patterns, I think is key in what we're discussing today. And that can't really come, at least in my opinion, without a practice of that space. So many of the people out there today run through the same pattern every single day. It was like what you're saying, Coach Nick, about like it was hard for you to see, right? So I think part of that, getting to that next level, is creating that space for you to be able to see it. And it's trying something different, doing something with your left hand that you might normally do with your right hand, taking a different route on a normal drive that you normally take. So just a way to break up the monotony of what I might call a lack of consciousness. Sometimes we get into this drone mode, so we're just running through the motions. And you mentioned Miracle Morning, Matt, and I think for me, just a piece of the Miracle Morning, the meditation is what is my practice for creating that space to be able to make different decisions in those moments that do trigger us. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if you might share with our last few minutes here, of the Miracle Morning, what might you say is most powerful or most productive or most impactful in your practice for how it shows up in your daily routine?
That's a great question. I think it depends on what season I'm in and what part of me is really open to the learning and open to what's going to show up that day. But overall, the part that really connects to me the most is going to be the affirmations. It's going to be those positive, affirmative statements that empower me to live to my core values. And to give you an example, I mean, I've got them right here at my fingertips. I mean, they're always never too far away. One of them, I'll pull up right here, the affirmation of I am energy, light and sun. I radiate the positive energy and give it to everyone I touch. I shine like the sun, and I'm an energy source for others. I bring an energy to the right here, right now, and I live in the now. My energy and vitality are poured into what I'm doing right now. I love it now. I revel in it now. I'm grateful for now. I perform my best now, here and now. I will show up and give my best to everyone who's willing to accept it. And just if you hear those words, it's about energy and it's about now. It's about being in the present moment right now, not living in the past and, crying over spilled milk or being a victim and what got me here. No, it's being present right in this moment, right now. And whatever comes at me, I am grateful to be in the moment with whatever it is. I am grateful that all my kids just got home from school, literally in the recording of the show, and I can hear stuff going on. And I know there's going to be requests, and I know that there's some wars going on upstairs right now, and that's totally okay. I know stuff is coming, and that's okay. Being here with you right now is the most important thing in the entire universe right now, and I feel that the affirmations get me into the place that help me to be with you in this moment now, whatever that moment might be. So affirmations are a big one for me, Josh. They really get me into the spot. If meditation is the one for you, I know Nick has a great morning routine. Nick, what's the one that does it for you in your routine in the mornings?
Yeah, much like you, it really does move around depending on the season. I've put so much focus into figuring out like what the best is, and I realized that just isn't. And I often will say to my clients, like, these are all the different ways you can do it. These are all the different tools, and they were like, which one's the best? Like, well, it's the one that you will use. And right now, for me, the one that I'm using is a very specific routine around getting my workout clothes on quickly as possible, starting to thinking about getting the book I'm listening to, AirPods on, starting my stretching routine. The stretching has been really important for me. It's a physical adjustment I've made in the last 3 or 4 months, but that just really sets the base. And I know even if I can't do any other workout after that, depending on how the morning's set up, that's it. The physical component's the most important for me because that allows me to access all those other things as well. And as I'm pouring good stuff into myself, so I'm listening to books and podcasts that are inspiring, that language, that affirmation process goes through that. And I'm such a big believer on the power of words and language. And I just, one side note, just this today, I have 2 clients already, such a big challenge to get out of the past to bring it forward when looking at vision and what they're creating, because they're so stuck in this is how it's always been. And if it's not even been people that have been in a place for very long, looking at teams that aren't even that big, 10, 15 people, saying, okay, we want to get to revenue targets of 5 million. We're at 4 million now. And people going, well, we need to get more than 500,000 a month. We've never done it before. It's like, now, to your point, like now, forward, not then. Let's use that. And there's a time when experience is fantastic, but there's a time when experience becomes something that holds you back. It encumbers you from moving forward. So I love that, Coach. But for me, it's the exercise that allows me to unlock the rest of the stuff.
What I'm taking away, Coach Nick, from what you just mentioned is, I've challenged the listeners, the viewers of, success leaves clues, and we copy other successful people. Take what works for you. Take out a little nugget and practice something, and use Coach Matt's approach of consistency. Just be consistent with something, because we get increasing returns the more that we do something. Coach Matt, we always have takeaways at the end, or the opportunity to summarize maybe a new perspective or a great reminder of a principle that we covered today. I wonder if you could bring us home in the last 60 seconds here with something, whatever that is for you today.
Well, it's to be open to the different perspectives of others, because you ask us all the same question of what part of our morning gives us the most energy or the most boost or the most learning. And for you, it's meditation. For me, it might be the affirmation. And for Nick, it might be the physicality of the stretch or the exercise. And, just being open to everyone out there has a different perspective on every single question and every possibility in the world. And we've got to be open to it. You can ask the same success principle question to 100 different successful people. We'll all have a different answer. So we as humans are constantly evolving, constant learning and growth creatures when we allow ourselves to be. So to tie it all home, pay attention and really sit and listen to what others have to say. You might just learn something.
Coach Matt Drinkhahn, thank you for joining Truth Seekers. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's been all yours.
Oh,
and mine. Good to see you guys.
thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction. So please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.